actually had to go to the library and do research. The card catalog, we had to open the drawers and go through the little cards and find the book. You don't need that anymore. We have Google. And if you think about it, you have on your computer screen this little Google window and this blinking cursor. And you can put pretty much anything in there and find information on it anywhere in the world. That is really incredible stuff. And now we have Amazon's Alexa, famously plugged by Alec Baldwin. And Google's answer to Alexa, Google Home. So you literally have this little thing sitting on your table, and you can say, Alexa, who is the president of Iceland? What years did the French philosopher Voltaire live? What are home remedies for a headache? And for you fans of Mike Myers and Dr. Evil, who really invented the question mark? There is an answer to that, by the way. That's amazing stuff. And you think about what it would have been like to have Google 2,000 years ago. And for poor Nicodemus, how much easier his life would have been if he had had Google. He could have just Googled, who is Jesus of Nazareth? What is Jesus' message? It would have saved him so much anxiety and worry and fear about being caught. He wouldn't have had to meet Jesus under the cover of darkness. But unfortunately for Nicodemus, he had to do it old school. He had to actually go and meet Jesus. The only time we see and hear about Nicodemus is in the Gospel of John. The very first time we hear about him is in this Gospel, John 3. And Nicodemus is afraid. He is hiding. He's worried about what he will lose if he's discovered. If it is discovered that he is following this radical, itinerant preacher who seems to flaunt all tradition. But he has to know. He is drawn to Jesus. He's heard his words. He has to figure out who this person is. He's got a lot of other things going on in his life too. Things that are important to him. Things he isn't ready to give up yet. The temple pays him a nice salary. His children have nice clothes. He is respected by those around him. He's a Pharisee. He has position and honor and comfort. If he follows Jesus, he risks all of it. Becoming an all-in follower is just too much for him now. We see Nicodemus again a few chapters down the road in John's Gospel. This time he's kind of standing up for Jesus. The Pharisees are trying to get Jesus arrested. And what Nicodemus says is, well, wait a minute, guys. Don't we have to have a trial before we judge somebody and have them arrested? So he's trying to defend Jesus. He's trying to stick up for him, but in a way that doesn't put him out there as a follower. He's not in the dark anymore. He's speaking up a little bit for what he believes, but he's still safe. Now, the last time we see Nicodemus was when Jesus was being buried, the day of the crucifixion. It's Good Friday. Now, Nicodemus was a very wealthy man. So after Jesus died and when they were preparing to bury him, Nicodemus brings 100 pounds. 100 pounds of myrrh and aloe to bury Jesus with. Now, commentators on this passage say that 100 pounds of myrrh and aloe would have been more than enough for 100 burials. And the belief in that time is that the more you respected someone, the more of these spices and aloes you would bring to honor them. Finally, at this point, Nicodemus was a follower. Regardless, it is clear that Nicodemus was very different at this point than he was from today's gospel. When he met Jesus in the middle of the night. He had listened to Jesus, he had met him again and again, and finally, this man was transformed. Imagine this. It's Good Friday afternoon. People are preparing for the Passover. And you see this man in his Pharisaic robes on that afternoon walking with his donkey with 100 pounds of myrrh on both sides of this animal, walking through the streets of Jerusalem on the way to the tomb, the smell of the myrrh and the aloe going throughout the streets. Now, you don't walk through the streets of Jerusalem with 100 pounds of myrrh and aloe and being known as Nicodemus was without being questioned, where are you going? And after seeing the death of Jesus as Nicodemus just did, I am certain he was truthful about where he was going. Because now he was changed. Now he knew Christ. He was different. You see, the fear was gone. The worry, the anxiety of what might happen, what could happen, what will everyone say if, was gone. He met the Christ, and he knew that whatever happened, whatever was lost, whatever would change, and maybe never be the same again, it was okay. Because he had something more. He had something that outweighed all of those other things. Something that was deeper. He was different because he had met Christ. It took a little while, but he had finally changed. He had finally been born from above, born of the Spirit. And that's what Jesus is talking about. This translation of the Bible says to be born from above, born of the Spirit, not born again. The Greek word that is used in John's Gospel, truly translated, doesn't mean born again. It means born from above, born of the Spirit. And how we become born again, how we become born of the Spirit, is by sticking with Christ. What if Nicodemus, after that first meeting, had said, this makes no sense to me? Born of the Spirit, traveling as the wind travels, I don't get it. What does that even mean? And gave up. He would never have been changed. But he stayed, he listened, he came back over and over again. And finally was able to surrender to the Spirit and let go of that fear, let go of that worry of what will be if. And that's really what it's all about, is surrender. Being born from above means that we have to let go of what we have always known, what we've been taught, what is familiar and comforting. Sometimes even our very identity, to follow Christ, to become part of something more. All three of Sarah and my little ones needed coaxing to be born. They didn't want to come out right away. We had to wait for them. We waited for days and days, and finally we had to give them a little nudge. They wanted to stay where they were. They were comfortable. They were comfortable with their mom. David actually, when it came time for him to be born and the doctor reached in to take him, shrank back. Didn't want to come out. He was comfortable. He was happy where he was. And I think about that like all of us. We like where we are. We're comfortable where we are. And when we're called to something more, when we're called to be born into something greater, sometimes we shrink back. Because the risk is too big. When we're born of the body, we have no choice. We have to move forward. When we're born from above, when we're born of the Spirit, we have to choose. We have to surrender on our own and let this power of the Spirit take us forward. And we do that just like Nicodemus did, by coming back to Jesus again and again and again. We cannot surrender unless we know him. And when we know him, we can't help but surrender. See, sometimes we seek Christ in the quiet and the dark where no one can see. Not that we're ashamed of Christ, but because we're not ready to let go. We're in pain. We're longing for something just like Nicodemus was. We're searching for some answer, bringing our hidden questions for some clue or some direction of what do I do next? If you were Nicodemus, you could walk in his shoes, and you were in that secret place with Jesus. You were searching and asking, what would you ask? What would your question to Jesus be? What answer would you be looking for? Nicodemus came with hunger, wanting to know and understand and see. Jesus said to him very simply, let go. Surrender. Be born of the Spirit. If we come back again and again and again to meet him, to listen to him in prayer, in reading the scriptures, in prayer, in worship,